Welcome in, fans, to another episode of the Two Line Pass podcast, or should I say the first episode of the Two Line League Pass. Joining you live from the studio, my best buds, Dustin and Ryan, and we're here to talk about the playoffs in full swing. It is incredible so far. We're going to break down the matchups, we're going to give our predictions, and go through it. Boys, are you enjoying your playoff hockey so far?
I am. This has been a really good couple of starting games. There have been a couple games that didn't look so good, a couple teams not looking as good as I thought they were going to look, but it's been exciting so far. I've been having fun.
I'm okay with it. I've reverted back to my my Dallas Stars fandom for the playoffs. Everything true to form. We lose game one, and then we get the overtime thriller win the other day. So things have been going good so far. Been some exciting games. We started off game one with like it was decided in regulation, but like right down to the wire. Just great games all around. So it's been good playoffs so far.
It's been incredible. My bracket looking okay. Like we said, Dallas expected to lose game one, as is tradition. They had lost, I think that one made it 9 game ones in a row that they have lost in the playoffs. So, but then they come back and get it, and it's been kind of an interesting schedule where the West, the series have played 2 games already. Some have played 2, and then now you're just getting tonight as we record. The Florida-Tampa Bay series is underway, and Florida is giving Tampa Bay the business. They're going to win game 1. And you had was it the start of that was the latest one. That was the latest start in that one. So it took a while where Dallas and Colorado had already played 2 games. Tampa Bay.
Yeah, for whatever reason, Tampa Bay and Florida got a bye. Maybe some Stanley Cup playoff bias. Maybe some NBA stuff. I don't really know.
Yeah, scheduling conflicts with the arena, I'm sure. But well, boys, should we jump right into the bracket? This is not updated for tonight's games. Not really. It doesn't include the pending results of the Tampa Bay Florida game, and it doesn't include the pending results, which I do believe is tied right now between Ottawa and Toronto in the third. But do we want to take a look at the bracket and start breaking it down?
Let's do it.
Let's get this bad boy up. And what we have so far, again, this does not have the conclusion of tonight's games with the exception of Carolina taking the 2-0 lead over New Jersey. But everything else is current basically as of that point. So you've got in the West, Winnipeg up 2-0 on St. Louis. Dallas and Colorado tied 1-1. Vegas, Minnesota 1 up for Vegas. They play tonight, game 2. And the Kings in Edmonton, the Kings are the darlings for a lot of people to pick to finally get past Edmonton. They won game 1, an exciting game 1 that maybe didn't look like it was going to be exciting, but did. Toronto and Ottawa currently in game 2. Toronto up 1-0. Tampa Bay, Florida. This one, like I said, looks like the Florida Panthers are going to win game 1. Washington, Montreal, another phenomenal game. Washington's up 1-0. And then Carolina beating up on the injured New Jersey Devils. They're up 2-0 in the series. Guys, do you want to start with the West, or do you want to pick what games you've liked so far?
Well, I think the biggest play/storyline this far, it's got to be the Ovechkin game winner, right? Like, just perfectly in place, right up front. How do you let the league's all-time leading scorer unaccosted, unaccounted for, unmarked, right in front of the net like that? But it leads to a phenomenal goal, just kind of like lifting his stick and redirecting that puck in. That to me has been the highlight of the playoffs so far.
And not to mention, that was Ovechkin's first career overtime playoff goal. Like, what? That's crazy it took him this long.
Yeah, I had actually no idea that was his first overtime winner. I guess after some of their struggles, some of their great series that they had, maybe not too many overtime games or chances for Washington to win. But that was surprising for the greatest goal scorer to finally get that particular little, I wouldn't call it a milestone per se, but another notch on the old belt for the greatest goal scorer of all time. So that one's been phenomenal. That game it looked like Washington, I think, was the significantly better team, but then Montreal came storming back. And that one, we could have ourselves on a series on our hands. Montembeault from the Montreal's goalie has been outstanding given what he's had to face. So that one, I picked it to Washington to run away with it, 4-1. But that one may be a lot closer than I give them credit for, especially going back to Montreal. We'll see how Game 2 goes, obviously. But, guys, what's your prediction in the Washington-Montreal series?
Washington in 5. I think Montreal might get 1, but I think this game kind of tipped the scales a little more towards Washington. And the Montreal Canadiens are, the second youngest team in the playoffs, or the youngest team in the playoffs? Like, it's them and Ottawa. But, yeah, I feel like Washington experience, and something just feels right about the Capitals this year. Like, everything kind of just seems to be falling into place for them.
Yeah, I'd say that it's probably going to be Washington, and it might even go 4, because that way, when you're a young team, losing a game like that is that can be like back-breaking, kind of spirit-breaking. So it really depends on how Montreal responds in Game 2. But that could be one that just completely broke their spirits, and now Washington's just kind of going to step on the throat, as it were.
And Montreal's a team that, with that wild card spot in the East, was so up for grabs, and it seemed like nobody wanted to win it. Anybody at any time could have taken it. Montreal kind of said, no, we're taking this, and they played extremely well down the stretch. Also, a little connection to Utah, Arizona. Dylan Strome, who was originally drafted by the Coyotes, leads Washington in points through the regular season, at least at 82. Not to be overshadowed by Ovechkin's chase for greatness. Dylan Strome having himself quite a season. So the Washington just looks like another team that they just won't ever enter rebuild mode, right? Even after Ovechkin goes, I'm sure they'll just keep continuing to dominate and just win games. But yeah, I think they're gonna beat Montreal, whether it takes 5 or 6 games. We'll see what Montreal does, if they do respond well, or if they say, you know what, like you said, Dustin, the wind's out of our sails. We gave it our best, but we're just not gonna beat the Capitals, not this year. Well, let's stay with the Eastern Conference. We have Carolina, New Jersey, which this Game 2 was a lot better in terms of the way New Jersey played than Game 1. Jack Hughes going down and being injured for the rest of the season is absolutely a back-breaking loss. But New Jersey, at least in Game 2, showed that they can still win without him or play hard without him. They were also missing Luke Hughes, who got injured in Game 1.
I feel like out of all of the first-round matchups that we have right now, this one feels the closest to a sweep. I feel like New Jersey, I'm not trying to hate, as I am a certified New Jersey Devils hater, but they seem outmatched in this. Like, it's not the matchup I don't think they necessarily wanted. Carolina they outshoot everybody, and they're kind of just ramming it to them, and without their best player, Jersey's kind of been on their heels the whole time. So out of all of them, I feel like this one will be a sweep for Carolina, if there's going to be a sweep.
Yeah, I don't suspect that New Jersey can withstand it, but it has been a goalie duel in that series. Dustin, what are your thoughts on that one?
That's one that I said in one of our post-season episodes that I liked Carolina to win the I like the way that they're playing, and I know it may not be how you actually technically pronounce his name, but I think that they're just gonna go ahead and stick the Devils right in the stank oven, and so thankfully they got him from Dallas in that trade, and they're just going to continue to stick everybody in the stank oven until they have the rematch, not really a rematch, but the reuniting in the Stanley Cup Finals against the Stars, and that's going to be one hell of a series.
That is a wild Stanley Cup prediction.
With Dallas, I've got Dallas going to the Cup, so it's not that wild. But Carolina, I don't know, like going into it halfway through the season, Carolina looked like they were just going to steamroll everybody. They're out shooting their shot differential is almost 1,700 more, or plus 1,700. The next closest is Florida at like 1,000, plus 1,000 in their shot differential. So they just shoot the lights out. And if your goalie's not on it, even some of those routine saves, they'll take a toll on it. So, and New Jersey's getting some good goaltending from Markstrom, but will it be enough? Time's going to tell on that one. Is the game final with Florida-Tampa Bay? Florida winning 5-2?
I don't know. I switched over to
Not
Ottawa.
quite final. There's 3 minutes left. Oh wait, hold on a second. My thing hasn't updated. Not final yet, but it's 5-2.
Well, we'll give this one to Florida. Florida wins game 1 in Tampa Bay in the Battle of Florida. This one I think is maybe one that everybody kind of circled and said this might be one of the best, if not the best, first-round matchup. These two teams, the winner of this series has gone to the Stanley Cup Finals, 2 out of 3, I believe, in their first-round matchups. So this one historically, a lot riding on the line. And I projected this one to go 7. There's too much talent on either side for this one to be too lopsided, in my opinion. Even with game 1 being a little lopsided, Florida capitalizing on some mistakes made by Tampa Bay. But yeah, I think this one goes 7. I have Tampa Bay coming out of the entire Eastern Conference, so I have them beating Florida. I think just a little more consistency. Former Utah great J.J. Moser is going to lead them to the promised land, and soon-to-be Utah great legend John Cooper, one of the best coaches behind the bench, a battle of 2 of the best coaches, in my opinion, in the league. So that one's going to be always an exciting one to watch. It got pretty chippy there. Matthew Tkachuk, who came off of his injury, hasn't played since the Four Nations. Was there some LTIR shenanigans? Who knows?
Scored a beautiful goal.
He did, and he makes his stone-like appearance back right in time for the playoffs. What a fortuitous recovery timeline for that. And then you add in Brad Marchand, who fits in nicely with Florida, but I still think that Tampa Bay, even getting manhandled in game 1, still finds a way to come back and win this series. Dustin, what are your thoughts on that one?
I think this one of those series is just that they're both 2 really, really good teams, like evenly matched teams. So I don't know what to expect. I think Florida obviously has a winning pedigree. They know how to win in the postseason, but so do the Lightning. They've been one of the most successful NHL franchises in the last, decade or so. Like they're just a constant. They've sort of turned themselves into like the New England Patriots of the NHL. Just for a while there with Tom Brady, just always good, always a threat to win it. But I think this is a year where I'm just going to say Florida wins this series. The Lightning see kind of the writing on the wall that they're starting to hit their decline. And they let go of John Cooper, and that just leads us right down the trail that we've laid out for the Utah Hockey Club. So go Panthers!
It's the only way. Even though I picked him in my bracket, I will gladly trade my bracket for John Cooper.
It's probably going to go 7. Like you were saying, there's too much talent, and you have 2 of the most experienced and best coaches behind the bench left in the NHL. And yeah, this is definitely this, and I think the Dallas and Colorado series have the potential to be the 2 best matchups, like the 2 most evenly matched teams. But I got Florida coming out in 6.
Florida in 6, eh? Well, on paper, they're pretty evenly matched. Only 4 points separated these teams in the regular season. Of course, you've got Nikita Kucherov on the Tampa Bay Lightning, who led the league in points by the end of the regular season. He picks up an assist tonight. But yeah, that first game, it was all, I don't want to say all Florida until about halfway through, and then it was all Florida. But we'll see. We've got 2 votes for Florida, 1 vote for Tampa Bay. We'll see how that one goes. Now, moving on to the Battle of Ontario, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Perennial, we get there, we're going to win it, but we suck and we're losers against Ottawa, a team who I think maybe exceeded expectations. Maybe Utah can look at Ottawa as a blueprint team to how to get out of a rebuild and how to get into the playoffs with the way Ottawa has played this year. They were on a little bit of a playoff drought, but back in it, they lose game 1. It wasn't really close. Questionable officiating if you're an Ottawa fan. Called it by the book if you're a Maple Leafs fan, but But they're playing right now in Game 2, and I have this series going 7 as well. I do have Toronto getting out of the first round. They're not playing Boston, so they are going to sneak into the second round for a matchup with Tampa Bay. But I do think this one goes 7. Now, I kind of don't want it to go Toronto's way, because I think the only way Mitch Marner leaves Toronto is if they have another extremely disappointing playoffs. If they get deep into the playoffs, I think Mitch Marner stays in Toronto. He's playing too good this year. He's played too good all the years before. He's just been a scapegoat for one reason or another. But if they have a good showing and they finish where they expect to finish, which could potentially be hoisting the Stanley Cup, I don't think that there's a foreseeable way that Mitch Marner leaves. So I kind of want Ottawa to upset him just for that. But I do think Toronto is the better team. I think Ottawa is the more physical team, the more fun team to watch in terms of that physical style of hockey. But Toronto is the faster team. They have the better players. The only question mark is can Stolarz continue to play as outstanding as he has? As I think Ullmark at his best is better than Stolarz is, but Ullmark has a tendency to be Linus Ullmark in the playoffs, and we all know how that ends, and it's not well. So we'll see if the regular season Ullmark shows up or if patented playoff Ullmark shows up, but I've got Toronto in 7 in that series. Ryan, what are you thinking in the Battle of Ontario?
This is the series I'm probably the most invested in. I want these Ottawa Senators to just defy all the odds and just knock the crap out of the Maple Leafs. I don't think it's going to happen. After Game 1, it was kind of evident the talent differential. But if Ullmark does show up, Ullmark can steal a series. At least he can steal games. And yeah, he kind of does suck in the playoffs. He's like 3-7 now. Something like that, with like a 4 goals against average, which not great, but for Ottawa to have a chance, he has to show up. And from what I've watched of Game 2, he's played a lot better. They're going into overtime, so good chance to steal a win in Toronto, get a quick little fluky goal, just get some traffic in front, get a Brady Tkachuk goal, do what Ottawa does. But if I had to guess, I feel like Toronto will win in 6. Depending on how this game goes, that could change my mind, but I'm feeling Toronto in 6.
Dustin, I've got Toronto in 7. Ryan's got Toronto in 6. What are you thinking about the Battle of Ontario?
I'm sorry, I was listening to both of you, but I was too busy trying to recall all of the names who were called for a penalty in the third period of Game 1. That was probably one of my favorite. Like, every sport sort of has like their memorable goal, like referee call or like penalty call or something like that. That's gonna be one of mine. The ref standing in front of the camera, reading off of his cheat sheet all the numbers that are being sent to the box for 2 minutes for roughing on everybody. I believe there were 12 total penalties in all, and that was exciting. That was fun. But I'm gonna say it's gonna be Toronto in probably 6. A better team. I think Ottawa has the proverbial puncher's chance, but it's going to be Toronto.
I think those refs had the over-under on total penalties called, and they didn't call quite enough cross-checks on Ottawa, so they needed to add those 6 roughings on Ottawa, but then they couldn't just do that because then it was too obvious, so they just tacked on 6 for Toronto. I don't think I've ever actually seen that sequence play out where I've seen people get obviously fighting majors at the end of games, 10-minute misconducts at the end. Nobody got a major, nobody got a misconduct. It was just 6 roughing minors aside to basically end the game. There was 45 seconds left. It was the strangest thing I'd seen, but Ottawa, I think their frustrations came. There was a lot of questionable, if you're looking at it through the eyes of an Ottawa fan, or even, in my opinion, an objective fan, you're looking at it that calls disproportionately went against Ottawa. There were a few questionable ones where you're like, ooh, like that. Any other game, maybe that's a check that is let go. But that one's called in that particular game. Now it's kind of swung the other way. Toronto going on the penalty kill more often than not in Game 2. But Toronto's power play continues to capitalize. They had multiple goals in Game 1. They had a goal in Game 2. And they're one of those deadly teams that if you give them those opportunities, whether it's justified or not, it doesn't right? You don't go back and say, oh, well, that was not a good call, so that power play goal is waved off, right? If you get the power play, you take advantage of the power play, and that is exactly what Toronto is doing with their skill guys. So we'll see as that goes on. I'm hoping for a competitive game. I do not want to sweep, even if it's like Ottawa plays tough. And it's a sweep. I want Ottawa to win in overtime tonight, split again in Ottawa, and I want this one to go 7. That one's just going to be exciting. Any time that a Tkachuk is on the ice, you know that good things are going to happen, or at least very fun things are going to happen when the Tkachuk is on the ice. So Ottawa, of course, has Brady Tkachuk, Florida has Matthew Tkachuk, and Keith Tkachuk is who knows where he is now, probably in the stands.
Keith Tkachuk is traveling with the St. Louis Blues as he is one of their scouting guys. He's one of like the heads of their scouting department.
Well, there you go. What an excellent segue to the Western Conference, Ryan. The St. Louis Blues are currently up against it. One of the hottest teams coming down the stretch. Gave Utah an absolute shellacking in the last game of the regular season. Come into it where you're looking at Winnipeg's previous playoffs. They played Hellebuyck just as much as they have over the past few seasons. Last year, he gets absolutely shellacked by Colorado. So the question mark was, is Hellebuyck ready to play in the playoffs? Is Winnipeg ready to play in the playoffs? Or are they going to have another disappointment? And they have not disappointed yet. It seems like this is a different Winnipeg team, especially from last year, where it's not all on Hellebuyck. They've got a defense in front of them. They've got offensive firepower, and they're putting it on display. Winnipeg takes a dominant 2-0 series lead, or if you look at it, you could say, well, they just won on home ice, right? Series doesn't really even begin until a team loses on home ice, as they like to say. But I don't see Winnipeg losing too many games. I have Winnipeg in 5. I just think that they're a significantly better team than St. Louis. They have obviously they have the better goaltender. For as good as Jordan Binnington was in the Four Nations and as good as he has been in the playoffs before now, I think we're getting to see some of that inconsistent Binnington play, and Winnipeg is absolutely capitalizing on it. And I've got Winnipeg in 5. Dustin, have you had a chance to catch the Winnipeg St. Louis season, and what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, the St. Louis Blues, I'd said earlier that it kind of felt like maybe they had expended too much energy with that huge win streak to work themselves into the wild card spot. And then they came down the last 4. They lost like 3 of their last 4. So like they may have just hidden the snides at the wrong time. But in Game 1, it looked like Winnipeg's goalie, Hellebuyck. It looked like Hellebuyck was just going right back to typical Hellebuyck postseason form. I believe they scored like 3 goals, 2 in the first and then 1 really quickly in the second. And you kind of like, you look at it like, oh, there he is. He's right back to postseason form. But he played great in Game 2, so maybe he's figured out how to get the postseason monkey off of his back. But yeah, this is just one where, despite whether or not you think they expended too much energy in that fight for the postseason, Winnipeg is just a better team. So I'd say Winnipeg's taking this in 5.
And it looks like one of those series, 3 of the 4 St. Louis goals in the series coming on the power play. Seems like if Winnipeg can stay out of the box, they should have this one in the bag easily. Ryan, what are your thoughts on the Winnipeg-St. Louis matchup?
I messed up by choosing St. Louis to win the Stanley Cup. I thought they were looking hot towards the end of the season, but I think Hellebuyck looks better than he ever has in the playoffs. Even in Game 1, he wasn't bad. So I think Winnipeg's probably going to take this in 5, maybe even a sweep. They're kind of just dominating the Blues. And yeah, probably going to be a Winnipeg stampede. And the whiteout. freaking incredible in both games. Like, absolutely. And shout out to the one dude in a Flyers jersey that just completely ruined the whiteout. Props to him. You're looking like a traffic cone out there.
You got to stand out from the crowd somehow. And that is, I think, a stadium that we were talking about in our group chat about if Utah wants to emulate it, that's the stadium you want to emulate, at least through these first rounds. I think Dallas does a tremendous job as well. But Winnipeg's continuity in their fans, and it did not look like there was that many St. Louis fans. So whether Winnipeg fans were stingy with their tickets or if St. Louis fans didn't travel, I'm not sure. But man, that whiteout was something. And but I do have to say too, Jordan Kyrou is he's kind of a beast for St. Louis. He's going to be fun to watch for many years to come. And his goal in Game 1 was a pretty sweet snipe by Jordan Kyrou. So he's pretty fantastic. But Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele for Winnipeg are a dominant force. And of course, you cannot discount the greatest goaltender in the world right now, Connor Hellebuyck. But I'm sorry that your prediction may not go the way, but we'll see, right? There's still plenty of hockey to be played. Teams that go down 0-2 are only at a disadvantage. They only lose like 86% of the time. So you've still got odds, Ryan. You've still got odds. But let's shift down to another one that I think a lot of people projected to be one of the best first-round matchups. And kind of the unfortunate thing about the way that the seeding works in the NHL right now is you've got Dallas and Colorado, both teams who are capable of winning the Stanley Cup, forced to play each other in the first round. That one knotted at 1. Game 1, not even close. Colorado steamrolled them. Game 2, it looked like maybe Colorado was going to steamroll them, but a couple of bounces go the other way. Dallas gets the win in overtime, and that one's knotted at 1. I obviously picked Dallas to win the Stanley Cup, so I have them beating Colorado in 7. And if it happens, what I'm hoping is Gabriel Landeskog comes back from injury. His first game in however long it's been, comes back, tries to go all out, can't do it. The team still wants him to be there because of an emotional connection to him. And he ends up costing his team. Not because I dislike the guy, but I think that's the best way that Dallas has to win, because Dallas is dealing with their own injuries. So if we can get a fresh Landeskog on the ice and he can't perform the way he does, McKinnon's going to do it. McKinnon's going to do it. Cale Makar's going to do it. The other question mark was, can Mackenzie Blackwood, the Colorado goalie, playing in his first playoff appearance, can he do it? And he's been up to the task. He's been phenomenal. Ottinger's looked shaky in Game 1, was solid in Game 2, but he's, I think, on paper, the much better goalie. But Mackenzie Blackwood is playing out of this world. What a pickup for Colorado just a couple of months ago to solidify an otherwise really, really bad goaltending situation and really their only glaring weakness that they've had over the last few years. But I do have Dallas winning in 7 and advancing on. Dustin, are you sticking with the great stars in this one?
I will. Blackwell is better than Blackwood, and like you said, I mean that trade with the San Jose Sharks to get Blackwood in there to kind of shore that up, along with the trade that they made with Carolina. Like as much as I hate the Avs. And I want Dallas to win. I do have to give that front office their props. Those two moves were really, really good. Trading for Necas and trading for Blackwood. Two really good moves that kind of helped propel them from when they made some of those moves, like they were battling for a wild card spot and finished the season no longer fighting for a wild card spot, just firmly in the playoffs and kicking the Wild down to the wild card spot. So as much as I dislike them as a former Stars fan and now as a Utah kind of like border rival with the Avalanche, I do have to give the front office props for those moves. But Dallas is winning the series.
Ryan, what are your thoughts on the Dallas-Colorado game?
Game 1 and Game 2 were really, like Game 1, you're like, yeah, it was a steamroll, but then Dallas bounces back and does what Dallas does, wins it in overtime. Otter looked great. But if Colorado wins this series, all the props go to Blackwood. All of it. He has stood on his head through Game 1 and 2. which I don't think anybody ever saw that coming. I know I didn't. I thought when they went and traded for him, I was like, well, he's a goalie. I guess you got a goalie, but we were all wrong. And he's done surprisingly well through his first 2 games. We'll see how he does for the rest of it, but this one's going 7 for sure. And I don't know. I don't want Colorado fans to be happy, so I want Dallas to win.
We don't wish them any actual physical injury, but emotional damage.
Absolutely. I kind of do. I kind of do. Go stub your toes, Avalanche fans.
Well, you heard it here first. Go stub your toes. They're just some of them. Some of them can be very opinionated. Those Avs fans. They've been too spoiled as of late.
I do have to say, as someone who has sat in your basement, Randon, and played with custom poker chips with Colorado Avalanche logos on them, to see you just do a complete 180 and now just like completely on the hating Colorado bandwagon, it brings my heart joy to see that people can grow and learn and evolve and learn from their past mistakes. So kudos and bravo to you, man.
Thank you. The Lord forgives. We all make mistakes in our life, and that was one of them. Now they were a formative team in my youth. I loved them until the very second that Las Vegas was announced as a team. This was when the thought of a team in Utah was so foreign to me that I couldn't even imagine it in my wildest dreams that we would get an NHL team. And I thought for sure for the next 40 years of my life, Las Vegas was going to be the closest that I would have to an NHL team. So I went all in. Obviously, since we're in the League Pass, we're in the Vegas jersey that has been sitting in my closet for well over a year now, going unworn, and it is a sweet jersey. I love the Vegas jerseys. I do still have my Joe Sakic jersey in the closet, so I will probably break it out on one of these League Pass episodes, but until then, and this is maybe the one and only time that I'm going to go all in on Dallas after this, Dallas gets nothing from me. This is their one time that I'll jump on the Stars bandwagon, and we'll see how it goes for me. Now, speaking of the beloved Golden Knights, they are battling the Minnesota Wild, a late start if you're on the East Coast. I love being a West Coast sports fan. I gotta say, it's so much better for the ability to watch games, with the exception of things across the pond, which are inconvenient for all time zones in America. But especially with East Coast times, you're going to be up until 3 a.m. potentially watching this game, because Minnesota is giving Vegas a fight. Like, it is not, Minnesota has not been a pushover. I think Vegas is obviously the better team, but Minnesota is no slouch. They had been dealing with injuries to end the season. They maybe limped into the playoffs, kind of even though it wasn't really in question, kind of fighting, making sure that wild card spot was secure down the stretch. But they get Kirill Kaprizov back on the ice. He's already got 2 goals. The guy's incredible. Boldy's incredible. Gustafsson is a serviceable goalie. I wouldn't call him great, but I think he's a very good goalie. You obviously won't see Marc-Andre Fleury unless it looks like they're done for. Maybe if they're about to get swept, maybe you put him in, but I doubt it. But I do have Vegas winning this one in 5. Minnesota will get a game at home, and then Vegas will close it out in Las Vegas in Game 5. But I've got Vegas taking on, but Minnesota, man. Minnesota making a game of it. What a Game 1. Ryan, what are your thoughts on the Vegas-Minnesota matchup?
Minnesota is definitely limping. They are not at 100%, and that is not where you want to be going into the playoffs versus Vegas. I feel like they're just going to overwhelm them. And yeah, Minnesota's not going to be a pushover by any means, but it's Vegas. They're kind of built for the playoffs. Like, they wait 82 games just for this. Mark Stone, he's too good to play in the regular season. So I feel like if it goes 6, I think Minnesota fans can hang their hats up high and say it was a good run for being as banged up as they were. And if you're down 3-0 at home, fuck it, throw Fleury in. What is the worst thing that could happen? Arguably, if anybody could steal a series or steal a game, it's him. Like, if anybody can do it, it's going to be him.
Well, he's like 85 now, so I don't know if he's going to be much.
Yeah, but
Justin, what do you think of the Vegas-Minnesota series?
Between him, Crosby, and Ovechkin, they're all old.
I am going to miss watching that man thank the posts after a puck clanks off of them. But yeah, we're probably not going to see him, and we're probably just not going to see the Wild in the postseason for very long, because I think Vegas is going to win this one pretty easily.
Let me ask you a question, guys. This is a little off topic from the playoff hunt, but this is kind of tying it in with the Utah Hockey Club. So I feel like there is a world where Utah Hockey Club becomes a team that perennial competes for a playoff spot. But then there is a world where that just puts us to be the Minnesota Wild, right? The Minnesota Wild are one of those teams that are just the model of consistency. They always play well. They get into the playoffs more often than not, but then they generally don't do anything once they're there. So how many times, like obviously the first time we get into the playoffs, it's going to be ecstatic. I don't care if we get swept. It won't matter. It'll be the most exciting thing in the world. But do you guys like ever worry in the back of your mind that you get caught up in being like a team like Minnesota where you're always just good enough to get there, but never good enough to go further?
I think there's a lot to be said for like a lot of people just like that you want to win playoff series. You especially want to win a Stanley Cup, but like a lot of people just overlook being a consistently good team. Like the Utah Jazz, for instance, like they never won an NBA title, but they went over 2 decades of just no matter what, they were always in the playoffs. And you compare it now to where they just finished an NBA season as the worst team in the league. Like, it's so much more fun when you're making the playoffs, because even if you're not winning a playoff series, even if you're not winning championships, you're still winning games. You're having more fun throughout the season, and I think there is something to be said, and it's oftentimes overlooked, just the importance of just winning games. It's fun and it's enjoyable, and for us being podcast hosts, it's a lot more fun to be on here talking about wins than losses. So like, even if we do become that team that's just a perennial, like, yeah, they make the playoffs, but they never make a run, they're never in the Stanley Cup finals or anything like that, like, it's still a lot of winning and a lot of happiness, a lot of joy, a lot of celebration. So I would be okay with that. As much as I want to win a Stanley Cup, I would be okay with just being the perennial good but not great playoff team.
I like that take. Ryan, do you ever worry back of your mind?
I got enough things to worry about in my life. I got my own problems and my own anxiety. I don't need to create new ones wondering if we're ever going to make it to the stand. You know what I mean? We have an NHL team. That's more than I could have asked for in my life. To quote the internet, I'm just happy to be here.
All right, I'll take all the anxieties on myself. I'll bottle them up, push them down, and ne'er let them surface. Now, the final one, this one I think was, if you look at it, especially just the final score, the box score, if you didn't watch any moment of it, I didn't get to watch the entire game, but Los Angeles, Edmonton coming into it. So this is the now 4th straight time these teams have met in the postseason round 1. Edmonton has steamrolled always, but Edmonton comes into this series banged up. You're wondering how healthy are they? You know, is Draisaitl playing injured? Is even McDavid playing injured? You know, how much of it is real and fighting through it? And to start the game, it looked like Los Angeles was going to just run away with it. And man, it was an exciting finish. Edmonton scores with like 5 seconds left in the second or something like that. And then Los Angeles gets it back to go up 5-2, and you think, okay, the route is on, but then here comes Connor McDavid, one of the best players in the world, puts his team on his back. Edmonton ends up coming back, ties it up late with 1.5 minutes left, 5-5, and then Los Angeles scores with like 30 seconds left in regulation to win this one 6-5. You could not ask for a better start to this series as a fan, as a casual fan who has no rooting interest in either team. And I think Los Angeles is a team that a lot of people picked to finally beat Edmonton this year. They needed that win. Maybe they would have liked it more comfortably, but they held on and they got the job done. I do think Los Angeles does defeat the Edmonton Oilers. I have Los Angeles in 6. I think they're a team that's finally built to take on Edmonton. I think they maybe can't match the top end speed of Edmonton, but I do believe they have the depth to compete with Edmonton. That has been something that they struggle with in terms of having top to bottom depth and how healthy are their top players. So I have Los Angeles coming out of this series. Dustin, what are your thoughts on Los Angeles Edmonton?
Los Angeles is too good, especially at home. And Edmonton, I mean, like you said, they're already banged up, and their goaltending is just. We harped on this last year. We all three of us, I think, just kind of ran over Stuart Skinner, and is just not good enough. They managed with him last season, but it's going to be their Achilles heel this year. They're getting bounced this year by a better Kings team.
Ryan, your thoughts?
Yeah, the Kings, the first 2 periods of that game, I think really showed what the Kings are going to do. And yeah, they did fall apart there in the 3rd period, and it was a hairy finish, but Quentin Byfield looks phenomenal out there. He doesn't care if you're McDavid and Draisaitl. That kid's playing better than both of them. The LA defense really, I mean, they held McDavid and Draisaitl off as best as they could. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't getting run over and, like, just dominated until the 3rd period. But I think Edmonton having home ice advantage for the first time is going to be huge because of how good of a home team they are. And, yeah, it doesn't feel like Edmonton's year. Like, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I got the Kings in 6 too.
Not a bad prediction. Well, there's the previews of all the first round matchups. We'll do a quick roundtable before we go. Who you got in the finals? Who you got winning how many games? I've got Dallas against Tampa Bay. Dallas hoists the cup in 7. Dustin, your finals prediction?
Dallas, Carolina.
Who you got?
Washington, LA, with the Caps winning in 7.
A swan song.
Yeah, I'm changing my whole pick. Fuck St. Louis. They failed me.
I hope that he retires if he does win another cup. And
he's not.
Off into the sunset. No, he probably won't. But that's all the time we have for the playoff preview, guys. Thanks so much for joining, and we will check in with round 2 when the time comes. But, man, playoff hockey is exciting when you've got a team in your backyard. It brings a new element to it, a new level of fandom. I hope that all of you new fans out there are enjoying the NHL playoffs. If you're experiencing it for the first time, it is the greatest postseason in sports for a chance to win the greatest trophy in sports. Guys, thanks so much for listening. Dustin, Ryan, thanks for joining me. Everybody, have a great night.